Greetings and salutations, loyal viewers of this channel. My name is Sean, and today we're going to talk about this story out of Brooklyn, New York, where a homeless person decided that his new residence was the stairwell of an apartment, and the only way New York City was able to get this person out, because apparently you could just squat on somebody else's stairwell and there's nothing the police can do about it, is due to the fact that this guy violated a safety regulation, but overall he would have been allowed to stay there but for this violation. But before we get into that, I just want to say thank you to everybody who signed up over on actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay?
And thank you to the podcast listeners, Spotify, Apple, and Google's podcasting platform.
This is Rutland Plaza. There are more than 400 residential units here, but residents say for the last 2 years, a homeless man has made the stairwell his home.
I don't even know where to start with this. 2 years, 2 years. 365 days times 2, this guy was sleeping there, and now people are demanding action. Now people are saying it's a problem. Squatters' rights, the divine right to sleep in somebody's staircase, is being honored in New York beyond the people who actually pay for rent in the apartment. It's crazy. It's insane. It honestly aggravates me. Sorry about that. Yeah, that was so weird and odd. I didn't really know how to deal with it. 2 years these people have had to live with a homeless person basically camped out in their apartment building, in their stairwell, and that's considered perfectly normal. The homeless person's squatter's rights supersede the rights of the people who pay rent in this particular apartment to actually stay there in peace and not have to deal with this. Absolute madness, but what we can expect from New York City.
And the last straw for them was when he was recently caught on security footage doing something which we've chosen not to air.
So when I first watched this segment, I was incredibly curious. What was this homeless person doing that was so sketchy, so much the last straw, that even the local news refused to air it? I was fascinated, I was wondering, I was curious why they weren't going to show it. All of those mysteries were running through my head on what could possibly be going on, even though they reveal the answer about 10 seconds later. Let me play the clip for you because you will be unsurprised in every possible way.
He was in the stairwell, pleasuring himself, exposing himself.
Yeah, he was touching himself. He was masturbating. And honestly, I don't even blame the guy because the city of New York has decided that this is his legitimate legal residence. He's allowed to be there for 2 years. And when you let somebody live somewhere for about 2 years, what could you actually expect? Do you think something different should occur? Maybe, just maybe, call me crazy, call me a conspiracy theorist, call me a nutjob, unsympathetic, bad person. The real issue is that the city of New York let this guy live there for 2 years. 2 years he was able to camp in this particular area, live there as if it's his residence, and they thought there was no problem with that. That was no big deal, nothing to worry about. Don't even try to correct the behavior. Don't try to get this person out of the staircase. I mean, it's just a New York City housing apartment. You don't really care about those tenants at all whatsoever. So if they have to deal with a homeless person living in disarray in the stairwell of their apartment for 2 years,
action after they say a homeless man has been sleeping in their hallways for 2 years.
That's really on them, honestly. What they need to do is just deal with it. What they need to do is just respect that this person has a divine right to conquer these stairs, make them his own, and mark his territory with whatever bodily fluids he so chooses.
It's really disgusting because elderly people, and children, they go up and down the stairs. So imagine if they're walking through the stairs and they see something like that.
We've obviously chosen not to air that footage, but here is video of tenants constantly having to step over him and his trash. Residents say he goes by the name Purple.
So there are two things that are quite notable. First and foremost, the man's name is Purple. What we are dealing with is a color purple situation, and I find that to be quite interesting because purple is in fact the color of royalty, and considering he appears to have god-tier rights above the common man, including the right to live in somebody else's apartment building staircase, maybe that color purple name is absolutely fitting for this individual. On top of that, somebody gave this man a pizza. He's right there with the pizza box, so he is generating income in some way, shape, or form, getting food in some some personal way, and honestly, I don't think that they have the right to disturb a man while he's eating his pizza, even if they have to cross his garbage all day, every day, because he's decided to conquer this territory and make it his own. Purple, I understand where you're coming from. Purple, I get why you feel so privileged, why you feel like you have this divine right, because nobody and nothing in the city of New York has told you otherwise, and if you were in these circumstances too, where you're basically being allowed to live like this, then I guess you probably would consider living like this.
Residents say he goes by the name Purple and lives in the stairwell between the 6th and 9th floors and gets high on drugs.
Also, Purple, I see what you're doing right there. You're trying to win me over with your comedic integrity. You're living between the 6th and the 9th floor, 6 and 9. I get what you're doing there, buddy. I understand it. I get where you're coming from. You're just a little bit of a troll, honestly. You're trolling these people. They're all upset. They're all hurt. They're worried that their kids are being exposed to a person who's masturbating in their staircase. But honestly, if we're being kind of fair about it, if you go between the 6th and the 9th floor, you had it coming. Get it? You catch my drift? Do you understand the joke? Do you get the comedy in this situation? The joke is you don't have any rights if you're actually paying your rent in a New York City apartment building, but if you refuse to pay rent, if you decide that you're going to camp out right there, if you call yourself an absurd name like the color purple, then everybody else has to bend over backwards in order to be subordinate to your whims and desires.
The smell is horrible. It's literally his smell.
So right now you have somebody that they're interviewing and they're talking about the odor that is coming off of this individual. Again, this is unsurprising. If you have somebody that's not living there with a shower, not living there with any kind of cleaning supplies or whatever, obviously this person is going to have an odor to him. Obviously that odor is going to permeate around the stairs that are not ventilated. And the local news ended up looking for this individual. They wanted to interview him. They wanted to get Purple's perspective on this whole situation. But unfortunately, he wasn't there because, of course, he committed another crime that New York is not going to prosecute him seriously for. And because of that, at this moment in time, we were not able to get an interview with the legendary, the epic, the 6+9 kind of floor living homeless man, the man named Purple.
We went to check it out ourselves, but he wasn't there. Police confirm he was arrested earlier this week for robbing a nearby store, but residents believe he'll be back.
So not only is Purple somebody who is squatting in a staircase of a New York City apartment building, and not only is he somebody who is masturbating in that staircase when there are children passing through, not only is he somebody who inconveniences all the paid residents who actually have to walk over his trash on a constant basis, but he's also a robber. He also was recently arrested for robbing a convenience store, and what I find interesting about this is that the residents of this building have no surprise related to that at all whatsoever. They expect him to be back almost immediately, and honestly, based on the laws, based on enforcement, based on bail reform, and all these other provisions in New York State Penal Code, you expect them to be 100% right. You don't expect this person to be held accountable. You do expect him to be right back there in this particular property, no matter what he does. And this is what happens when you allow lawlessness to completely take over and run roughshod over a civilized society. This is the slow destruction of a major metropolitan area, the slow destruction of New York City, and it's happening in Brooklyn, New York, where if you tried to rent an apartment in this particular area of New York City, you would be expected to pay thousands upon thousands of dollars due to the fact that this is a largely gentrified area. This is where a lot of big money goes. But the thing is your money really worth it when people who refuse to pay, who refuse to comply with the rules of society, end up getting more rights and privileges and immunities than you do as a paid resident, as a paid tenant? To me, this is an absurdity stacked on top of an absurdity. It should be the easiest thing in the world to move somebody out of a stairwell. You're not allowed to live in a stairwell. You don't have a divine right to live in a stairwell. But apparently, 2 years in, this guy's squatter rights kick in, and he's allowed to do whatever he wants, even if he's committing additional crimes in order to support himself in this particular venture.
And they say he's constantly able to return to this building because this front door Is it locked?
So this is actually a common issue that tends to occur in housing that is either subsidized by New York City or owned outright by New York City, is that you have these secure locks, these doors that are supposed to automatically lock behind them, and yet you consistently will have residents propping it open, or in this particular situation, an issue where the door does not lock behind the tenants, where it always remains open, and you end up in situations where people get their packages stolen, or in this particular situation where things are a bit rarer and more unusual, you end up with somebody squatting in a particular staircase. And by the way, the enforcement in all of these buildings, these New York City subsidized buildings, is lacking and comically bad. I remember my fiance used to live in a housing project in one part of New York City, and after she moved out, but we still got the update on the news report and through the Citizen app, it was discovered that an electric wheelchair that was charging in the stairwell, which you're not supposed to be able to do, ended up catching fire at around Christmas Day or Christmas Eve, which caused almost everybody to evacuate the building. Now, there were complaints issued about this wheelchair over and over again. It is obviously a danger to have something with a lithium-ion battery that big charging in the stairwell, which, by the way, you're supposed to take the stairs in case of an emergency, and this was the only stairwell, yet nobody answered any of these complaints. Nobody actually came out to the location and told this person that if you're going to have this electric wheelchair, that's totally fine, but you need to have it in your apartment charging safely. You can't leave it overnight in the stairwell because obviously this is a safety hazard. And yet, for years and years while she lived there and for many years after, guess what? Nobody moved it. Nobody addressed it. Nobody solved the problem, and then it caught on fire, causing people to have to evacuate, causing their windows to have to be smashed out in order to ventilate the smoke on around Christmas Day.
Edward is a 10-year-old boy who lives in the building, worried for his mom's safety.
I want to make sure she's safe and nothing happens to her. I just want to make sure I take care of my mother because I very love her.
Now look, I'm not a hater. I haven't had my glass of haterade today after my AM workout or anything like that. But interviewing this kid while this lady is smiling, while this situation is actually serious, to me, seems to be a little bit of ridiculousness. And honestly, you know who knows it's ridiculous? This local news reporter who is smiling while she's interviewing. She's like, yeah, you want to protect your mother? Oh, that's so cute. Isn't this a swell story? Isn't this a wholesome bow to put on this story of a crazed homeless person living in your staircase, potentially threatening your life? Like, seriously, my heart is literally breaking for this young man. I am literally heartbroken for this individual, but he is so sweet. Can't we love the innocence of a child? Can't we all embrace the innocence of a child? I mean, we're not actually going to do anything about the fact that the innocence of a child is being compromised. Like, remember, this story is about a homeless person who is camped out and living in a stairwell for 2+ years, and he's even masturbating in the stairwell, causing all sorts of problems, committing crimes in the area, causing the police to have to show up to this residence, to this staircase in order to arrest him over and over again. But isn't it sweet that we found this little kid who just wants to protect his mom? I mean, we're not going to actually do anything for this kid. We're not going to actually help him. We're not going to actually aid him in his quest to protect his mother, who's probably a hardworking lady. But isn't it sweet that we put him on TV? Isn't he so excited to be on television due to this? I mean, honestly, is scarring children really that bad when you could put them on television? Can't we all get behind this? Can't we all support this wholesome tale?
Tenants created an online petition to get him permanently removed from the building, claiming he has a hot plate and ottoman.
So first of all, I just want to say that this petition sucks. It's terrible. It's bad. It's no bueno. They're only asking for 50 signatures in order to get this person removed from the building. There's 400 units in this building total. And the reason why they might actually be able to remove him is because he's gotten so comfortable in this particular area that he has a hot plate and he's actually cooking food in the staircase, having a good old-fashioned cookout, a purple style party in between his masturbation sessions, and that might finally get him removed. But right now, what they're doing is they're taking the hot plate, they're throwing it out, then he goes and gets the hot plate and sets up all over again. And no, I'm not joking about that.
They take it down, they'll put it near the trash, and then he'll come, put it back upstairs.
Look, I'm not trying to be cruel. I'm not trying to hate a homeless person just for being homeless or anything like that. I am fully aware of the fact that a lot of homeless people in the United States of America tend to be disproportionately mentally ill, disproportionately addicted to drugs, and all of that. But the thing is, if you want to work on the homeless problem, then what you need to do is not subordinate people in this particular building or any building that are actually paying rent to the whims and desires of said homeless person. What you should do is provide for them through the various programs that unfortunately right now are disproportionately going to illegal migrants. I think that is a far better solution than what we're dealing with right here, what we're expecting people to put up with. And considering this is one of the trashier buildings in Brooklyn with a bunch of other violations, to me, it's just disrespect on top of disrespect.
The building also suffers from other quality of life issues like constant water leaks. HPD says it hasn't received complaints for broken locks, but plans to send an inspector to check it out and issue violations if appropriate.
Yeah, so the building overall is in a ton of disarray. They got leaks, they got all sorts of issues, and honestly, based on the way that they patched up this pipe with what looks like a plastic garbage bag, you can understand why they have issues. There's also garbage strewn about the entire building, but the fact of the matter is, if you can't do a basic thing like keep people who don't have a right to live there out of the building, I'm not surprised that the regular ordinary maintenance never gets done. I'm not surprised that that doesn't get taken care of, and I'm not surprised that a large portion of the residents of this building have a defeatist attitude because the city of New York has neglected them in 25 different ways, so this is just number 26. But honestly, right here, that's where I'm going to leave it off. I want to leave the question out to you guys in the audience. Do you think this hobo has a divine right to live in this particular area? Or maybe, just maybe, you think that in order to live in an apartment building, you should probably, possibly, metaphorically at least, pay rent for said apartment building. Let me know all your thoughts down in the comments below. Oh, and by the way, as if the petition to get him removed wasn't already a useless enough symbolic gesture, during my research related to this story, I actually found another petition started a couple of days ago to keep purple in Ruthven Plaza. Now, this is started by Thomas Williams, an absolute professional idiot in my opinion, and it says the following. A poor, down on hard times man known as Purple is being chased from Ruthven Plaza by an unsympathetic group. They don't want this poor man there, likely because he tries to bring peace and order to the complex by collaborating with local police and community groups. It is outrageous that people would treat such a fine person like a piece of garbage. Is there no more decency left in this world? Let's uplift this man rather than cast him out to the dangers of the streets. Yes, this is no joke, a real petition, and a real human person actually said that this guy who is camping out in the staircase, running a hot plate, fire hazard, has been caught masturbating in said staircase, is actually bringing peace and order to this area. Yeah. New York City. Now, you guys might have noticed that I am set up in a new location, a new studio. Yes, I have a dedicated studio space. Yes, I've wanted one for 6 years. We're still working out the kinks. We're still trying to make this the best possible studio space of all time. But I just want to say and add thank you to everyone out there in the audience. And I really genuinely appreciate you for allowing me to get to the point where I can actually have my own dedicated space and I'm not shooting in the same bedroom that I'm sleeping in. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. As usual, if you like the video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on my social media, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about a homeless person with a divine right to live in somebody else's stairwell. Till next time.